Thursday Nighter Round 3 for the month of March. I am Michael Perry, and I am pleased to be joined by National Master Okay.
Hey there.
Couple of quick announcements before we jump into the games. Always like to just give a quick shout out to whatever tournament we have at the castle. And this weekend, it's the Spring Rapid, March 21st. So it's 5 rounds of Game 30 with 5-second delay. And Joshua Rajabari is the TD on that one. So I believe that's dual rated, so it'll affect your classical rating, but it might also be quick rated, but it doesn't look like it's showing on the flyer. And then the other announcement is the Minnesota State Close Championship, of course, biggest event of the year. That will be happening next weekend. Games on, I believe, Friday night and then Saturday and Sunday. And there will be coverage on this channel, on the YouTube channel, and it'll be all national masters, international masters. So you'll definitely want to tune into that because it'll be a very strong commentator team covering the strongest players in the state. So make sure to check that out. And that will be not this weekend, but next weekend. So pretty cool stuff there. I think that's it, and I'll send it over to Okay.
All right. Well, let's get started. I guess we'll maybe look at going in board order. Although there is a game that's already finished. Maybe we should look at that one first. Jeremy Kyler as Black versus Matthews Smigel. So we're starting off with the French and knight c3 and knight f6, the classical variation, and bishop g5, which could go in a number of directions. Bishop e7, now fully staying within classical. So I guess popular ideas include this guy, which is McCutcheon, if I'm not mistaken, and this guy, which is Byrne variation, and bishop e7, which I remember when I was younger, I learned very quickly that one of the downsides of bishop e7 was having to deal with the Aliakin Chartard attack, which didn't come in this game, but can be a very enterprising gambit for white. So anyway, we get here, and I don't know whether bishop e3 is the norm here, or whether exchanging on e7 is correct. But in any case, white retreats and retreats with his bishop to a place where he's trying to at least keep some pressure on c5 and d4. An interesting decision, indicating that Jeremy wants to put his knight on c6. So now everybody's minor pieces are developed. Well, as a French player, I have my bias in favor of Black here. But in general, it does seem as if Black has a comfortable position. The bishop probably does want to be sitting on d4. And in any case, at this moment, Black can gain the bishop pair if he wants, and White really can't afford to move his bishop away because then the e5 pawn falls. So I think that the opening's been a success for Jeremy here.
Yeah, for sure.
And so Maxwell wisely runs away from the pin against his knight. And so, yeah, it seems like the last couple of moves, Jeremy's made further improvements to his game. And now he has this pin against c3, so chances are he'll be able to corrupt White's queenside pawn structure. And this is an interesting decision. So Black could have captured on c3 immediately, doubling the pawns. Um, but I think made a decent decision to keep the pressure up first. For one, the knight really can't escape because if the knight moves away, say to e2, white loses the pawn on c2 and has a, a good position in addition to his extra pawn. So Maxwell decides to defend the c2 pawn, I suppose, with the eye towards removing his knight. And once again, Jeremy decides not to take on c3.
And that's interesting because I think he had a guarantee, right? He could have won that pawn,
Mm-hmm.
but now he doesn't necessarily win it.
And maybe the idea is he wasn't so sure about this material situation.
True. Yes. So technically, it's just an even trade.
Yes. And so he plays a5 to soften the knight on b3. And now he takes and kicks that knight away. Okay, so this makes it, oh, the sting at the end of the tail. So the difference now is with this pawn on with this square no longer defended. Jeremy was planning something like this, and then an interesting fork of the rooks. And it just so happens the bishop on c8 is preventing back rank mate. So that's a very clever find. So now we could take the pawn for free and then take a second pawn while creating a new pin on the knight on d2. So it's already seeming like it's very, very difficult for Maxwell here.
Yeah,
And
Jeremy has played like a spotless game pretty much. There's
yes,
not much to criticize.
no. As as a member of the Francophile community, I'm very proud of this game already. So
Yeah, same. It was interesting because in the opening, I mean, I played the French for years, but I never played Knight f6. So that as soon as Knight f6 was played by Jeremy, I was out of book.
ah,
I,
yeah, knight
I,
f6.
I was a
Yep.
bishop b4 guy,
Yes,
getting
I
into
still am
the
a bishop b4 guy.
um. Oh boy, what's the Winter War? I almost forgot the name. It's
Yes,
been so long.
yes. No, I'm still a bishop b4 player, and I often find myself wondering why it deserves my continued allegiance. Most of the strongest players of the French have moved towards knight f6. Um, the games are equally challenging, but also seem to provide um, in some variations easier chances for black than often appears in the Winnower. The Winnower is it's combative as well, but there's so many complicated decisions you have to make that knight f6 just seems like a more practical choice. And I think for some years anyway, a lot of Winnower players had gone to knight f6 instead. So now we have, wow. And so g2 disappears. Yes, and now that there's Luft for the king, it's pretty much over. And this here is a very important motif to remember. If you're the defending side in a position like this, and in this case, Maxwell didn't really have much of a choice, but if it were the case where it was just these pieces on the board, it's imperative. In fact, let's even say that the pawn isn't there. This king needs to stay on one of these squares with this situation here. The reason being the maneuver that Jeremy pulls out right here. Once king e2 is played, now promotion or winning of the rook is guaranteed because of the skewer. And seeing that, Maxwell runs away from it, and now a queen appears very briefly. But yeah, at this point, it's now all over, save the shouting. So that was a nice game by Jeremy. Yes. Well, let's see. Oh, we've got another game that's completed, and that's between the veteran Kevin Landman and Evan Patchen. Let's see what happened here. So we have a Nimzo Indian heading towards the Rubinstein, and this is the Fischer variation with b6. And 92, which I often get confused about the bed picture here, whether this is the Reshevsky variation or what. Anyway, it really doesn't matter too much. What's important is that I guess both players remember what moves they're supposed to play. Now, here, there's also the line with bishop a6 that's played, although a young master from Iowa told me that that was kind of under a cloud now. Evan plays 0-0, which I think is fair. And then that exchange occurs because otherwise, if Black withdraws with his bishop somewhere, now White's able to get e4 in, and it becomes really hard for Black to develop counterplay. So as not to lose time, he exchanges off and then plants his pawn on d5. So now he has a fair share of the center. And bishop b7 with pressure down the diagonal. And we're still very much within book. And now it's a bit, I think knight c6 looks new to me. I think knight d7. But knight c6 has its own logic to it, I think. I'm assuming he's looking for either supporting e5 or knight a5.
Yeah.
But it seems a little. I prefer knight here, giving some flexibility. Maybe you want to play this instead of this, and you're not blocking the bishop's face. But okay, we'll see how things go.
Yeah, that's the problem. Now White gets e4 in. Now if you try c5, then d5 comes and White,
Yes.
not immediately, but White will have a pass pawn. So that's why you need to play c5 quicker. Because then once d5
Yes.
comes, you haven't moved your e pawn forward.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it's already looking like a difficult position for Evan here. And F3, which okay, F3 moves like F3 are always a bit double-edged, although in this case, because it doesn't seem as if black can easily challenge white center, and he doesn't have a dark square bishop, white should have not too much difficulty covering his dark squares on the king side and center.
And I think he
So
primarily did that just because he wanted a good square for that bishop on c1. Because if you put it
yes,
on g5, it gets kicked, and obviously if you put it on e3,
yes,
then it blocks the queen, and you lose e4. So yeah, I think it's a good move.
yes, yeah, I like the move, and I think I was just pointing out why he could do that and get away with it. Is that black isn't set up to take advantage of any weaknesses created by that square at the moment, and yeah, and now that's a really annoying pin, where if he plays h6 now, the bishop can come back to e3. Oh, you've lost a tempo. Yeah, but I've created a weakness or induced a weakness. Maybe in some future world, Kevin can uh, maybe bring queen to d2 or something like that. Maybe play g4, h4. But there's a hook. So this is a tough one. Does white have...
Mm.
Yeah, this is tough. Does white have... I mean,
Evan's
I was
fighting
going to say...
Evan's
Yeah,
fighting fire with fire.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it seems as if um, white was playing good-looking moves, but black was playing with purpose to do some mayhem on the king side. Hmm. Oh no. Ouch. That's crafty. Let's go back a bit and see how this came about. So bishop e3, knight there, which seems decent. Knight there, queen there. At the moment, there's a pin, but black is also considering maybe like a knight h3 or a bishop h3. Bishop h3 probably would be annoying. And so white escapes the pin of his g2 pawn to bring the king there, which also means that the knight coming to h3 is no longer check. And I think that was a point that Evan might have missed. So he plays bishop e6, and now we have, I guess, in simplified form, the Pinnaman-Winham maneuver. Knight takes, bishop takes. The knight can't capture because it's pinned. And while it's pinned, let's attack the pinned piece. And all of a sudden, the piece is gone. And there doesn't seem to be much of any counterplay.
No.
Wow, that was abrupt.
It was, yeah.
Um, yeah, it seems like if Evan had a decent fight going on there, and then all of a sudden, bam. I don't know. Let's see where maybe we can go back and figure where. I mean, already in a bit of a slightly difficult position because white has a stable advantage in this position. But with e5, he's fighting for his share of the center. and then he gets his knight to an active position. And so maybe this is the moment. Maybe it's tough though. Does he break his knight back, or does he proceed with this? Because this one of the disadvantages of that move is even right here. Maybe he has to be concerned about stuff like this. Not right at the moment, but g4 could be an issue because a knight on f4 is losing a defender. Of course, the problem with that is queen g5 can happen now, I think, preventing that, and then maybe knight here. But doing it this way, so maybe this is the point that black needs to play knight takes d5.
Yeah, knight takes d5 or just knight h5 seems slightly off as well.
Yeah.
Black seemed to be playing a bit too aggressively and moving to the side of the board when white's kind of threatening you in the center.
Yes. So maybe knight g6 or knight e6 might have been more circumspect there.
But let's say knight a5, h5, like he played, and then knight d5, and then, like you said, just take the knight. Probably bishop takes, and rook a7, then or there, yeah. For some reason I was thinking rook a7.
Oh, rook a7 is also doable, I think, yeah. Which then gives this guy more protection.
But yeah, that is defended by the queen, so we don't need to. And he's not, at least he's not losing anything here. Obviously, white's preferable, but I think for white, you need to take, for black, you need to take what you can get. So I think this definitely would have been the way to go, or at least one of the ways.
Yes, for sure. All right. Well, another game is completed. Liam Erickson versus Robert Donahue.
Good to see Leon playing. I know he plays some tournaments, but I was just looking at the standings, and I don't see him in either the Premier or the Open. So maybe he's just playing a kind of a round out of the blue, or a house player. So it's definitely good to see him play, though. It's be fun to watch this game.
Cool. Well, let's see what happens. So we start off with a double E pawn opening, and we're now in the Ruy Lopez. Queen f6, legal, but the knight on g8 might be wanting that square for itself. Wow. Yeah, Liam has gotten what most white players feel is their just deserves. He's got the very strong pawn center. His minor pieces are all developed. And yeah, white's just better here. Interesting.
I'm not sure if e5 was a bit too hasty, because black can always open up with f6. Maybe you just keep the space advantage.
Yeah, it's possible that just playing 0-0-0 immediately might have been. I mean, if you're going to play queenside casting, that maybe just playing that immediately before deciding how you're going to play. I guess another possibility is, say e5 is played, and then queen here. Is it worthwhile chasing the knight as well?
Hmm.
And where's the knight going to go?
Yeah. Yeah, this could be definitely.
And the idea is, in general, if the knight has to go back, then that leaves this guy unprotected. Say the knight goes, I don't know where to go. Um, well, either way, that's one more piece on the back rank, whether it goes there or whether it goes here. And either way, it means that d6, white might have a free hanging bishop to deal with on e7. Of course, I'm saying that in reverse. White will have the benefit of having a hanging bishop on e7 if d6 were to occur. So I don't know. It's a possibility, but I think maybe staying flexible with just castle queenside immediately.
Is castle kingside bad? Because my gut tells me queenside is suspect, so I want to go kingside, but it makes sense that he was probably worried about like g5 and g4, taking advantage of the bishop protecting.
Yeah, I think this pawn might have been what convinced Liam to play for queenside castling for two reasons. One, that pawn could become part of the arsenal against his own king, but also by castling queenside, he gets to use f4 as a hook to open up lines himself.
Yeah, now it becomes double-edged, but yeah.
So the king probably goes to b1, a1, but he's able to open up because he has a development advantage and he needs to open up. Well, doesn't need to, but that's one of the better ways to take advantage of a development advantage is open up the position. And so I don't know, but I'm just guessing that might have been his thought process.
And I like g4 here.
g4.
Oh, not after this, because the bishop. Not after d5, but because en passant would have been nice for us, but
yes. So f5, and now the aforementioned g3 happens. Which f5, I don't know, but I think f6 might have been better than f5, just because with f5, the bishop, you get a pincer grip on the e4 square, but you're also dooming your bishop to staying behind the pawn. Now, maybe the principle of keeping the position closed might have been Robert's idea until he gets his development going. But if that's the case, if white really wanted, he could capture here. And then it stays open. Although, now it's not looking so great for white. So I think Liam did the right thing. Leave the pawn on f5, keeping black's queen bishop out of play, and then just open lines with g3. Now we have an open G file, or half open G file, technically.
White's play is definitely quicker than black's.
Yep.
Ooh, and that is evidence.
Yes. With the storm clouds appearing near his king, Robert decides to go va-banque, all in, and we'll see how that works.
This is actually, for like a minute, I forgot this was Robert as black, and it's been a somewhat normal game.
Yes. Well, Queen f6 punctured the idea of normalcy for me.
It did.
That move 3 or whatever.
For the last 10 moves, it's been somewhat normal.
Yes, that's true. Oh, that's an interesting decision. I guess it does force the queens off.
Yeah, I don't know if obviously white's still better, but I don't know if we were that desperate. I understand he was like, oh, I'm up a piece technically, and I just need to protect against the attack now. But I don't think the attack was all too scary.
Neither do I. I think that's a bit of a concession. But okay, maybe his position is strong enough that he can afford a concession. I guess feel that he's given Black more chances if he can get those pawns mobilized.
Yeah, it's connected passers, C and D pawns.
Yeah. And Robert's like, pawns? We don't need those stinking pawns.
Think of it like
So,
if you take me on F5, I'll take you on A3.
yes. You know, okay. But yeah, we have a strange material balance here.
Yeah.
And I do admire how Roberts tried with every move, making every move an active move. Um, but I doubt it's going to be enough. Hmm. Okay, now I
Yeah,
don't have
now you just
much.
play Bishop C2, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, now I don't feel too optimistic about Robert's chances of survival here. Oh, wait a second. Maybe there is something going on here. Well, no, the knight should be able to corral the H pawn, and the king can hold against the C and D pawns, and then the passed G, F, and H pawn and A pawns will do the trick. So I don't think this is working for Robert. I would have probably taken on F on G5. Let's see what happens here if he does take on G5. Is it?
It's just H4 and knight E5, H3 and knight F3. Or knight G4.
Yeah, and then this is over. This is over. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. All right. Well, that was a good one by Liam. He stared down Robert's unstereotyped approach to the Ruy Lopez and got the job done. And technique was good. Let's see. Oh wow. Games are finishing quickly here. So we got Jacob versus Jordan, and isn't me or has Jordan played black a couple rounds in a row? No, he played white last round, I think. Yeah, I think he played white last round. That was the one where he had the. Oh, was he black in that one? Where he had the ending that he just managed to outplay his opponent.
You'd have to be more specific.
Yes, I was gonna say that doesn't cut out too many games, does it? Well, actually, it does because Jordan's Hurricane doesn't usually leave end games on the board. But we'll see. This is Jordan goes for the sharpest, most challenging approach here.
This is it's obviously theory. I've never it's theory. It's pretty obvious looking at it, but I've never seen this myself.
So okay, they escaped the realm of theory after B5.
Oh, really?
B5 is not theory. Bishop D5 is the more normal move here, and even Bishop E6 is a bit. So this line is um, really challenging for both players. Um, and bishop e6. Yeah, so here bishop d5 is the more normal move. After e4, and then bishop e6, and then black is saying that, yeah, his bishop on e6 isn't looking great, but the bishop on g2 is having to stare at a wall. Now for knight c4, then black can play c5 or knight a6 and try to get some influence on the central dark square. But yeah, this after b5, they're on their own. So then we have this. Interesting. Even more interesting. So one would have thought that maybe that Jordan might go for queen e7 check in order to save his rook in the corner, but he's really committed to sacrificing the exchange, it appears.
Probably too committed because, I mean, queen takes e7, knight e7 is forced. I mean, knight e2 is forced. And then now you just move your rook, and then white can't castle because you lose the knight. So I think queen e7. I mean, I guess you do lose, the ability to move your dark squared bishop on f8, but this might have been slightly preferable.
Yeah, I think I like this. Maybe you play. I don't know where you play the rook. Maybe you play the rook to b.
I kind of like it on c8 just because you stop bishop c6.
True. And
And
then
like
you plan on playing.
Yeah, and g6 bishop g7 because there's no way white's worse. I mean, black's better. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. Oh yeah, and there's also black could also look at knight e5, knight d3 ideas. So yeah, this would be, I think, would be a bit more circumspect. But he's like determined, please take my rook, and Jacob is just as determined not to take. Although at this point it might be a bit late. Wow. Not playing. Do we? Okay. So now we have a position where black seems to be at least a bit better with his protected pawn phalanx on the queen side, and white still not being fully developed and having to play d3 in order to get his bishop out. Okay, that's problematic, but I guess I understand. He wants to be able to take his bishop away from c1 and couldn't he do that immediately with like bishop g5?
Bishop d4.
Well, I suppose rook d5 is a thing.
Bishop
rook d5 is not a thing because
yeah.
bishop will take.
Yes. Well, hey, maybe he wants to lose a rook.
Yes, that's true. He was so insistent a few moves before, right? So yeah. So b3, I don't know, because b3 creates a weakness. Even if it doesn't lose the pawn immediately, it creates that weak pawn on b3 that it's easier for black to get to that than for white to get to a7.
And come to
Oh,
think
and
of it,
there's that detail. Yeah.
and come to think of it, why can't you take on b3? Does that win a pawn? Because if b3 takes b3, rook b1, you can actually take on a2.
Sorry, just a second. You mean can black take on b3?
I was looking at a different line, but yeah, this is the obvious one. Does black just win a pawn here?
Well, the bishop on c5 is still hanging, right?
Oh, good point. And if we play
Yeah,
bishop d4, there's rook b1. Okay.
yeah. So I guess we kind of go at this route, and instead of capturing on b3, he then creates a, a passed pawn, which then makes the bishop on c1. I guess the bishop has to consider bishop a3, or maybe maybe still bishop g5 in order to get active. Um, but Jacob decided to try and blockade the pawn. The problem is the queen is not the best blockading piece, so Jordan might find a way to take advantage of that. And okay, so now we have 3 versus 3 attacking, 3 defending. How long can Jacob tolerate that knight hanging out next to his king? And we have bishop of opposite colors, which benefits the attacking player. Which, okay, um, Jordan isn't strictly speaking attacking the king, but his pieces are definitely more active and putting more pressure on White's position than White's pieces are putting on Black's position. So
You should probably take a look at the times.
you had to point that out. Poor Jacob is like playing on increment almost. Yikes. Yeah, this is the point in the game where, well, in a typical game where I'm playing against Andrew Tang or Samrug, where the position, you know that if you try hard, you should be able to defend, but you're also just as sure that you're going to blunder somewhere as White here.
It works.
Let's uh, let's see how this works. So then bishop takes. So say rook takes. And queen takes, queen takes, rook takes, king takes, row, and promotion happens. So in effect, Jordan just stole a pawn in broad daylight.
And that's why these passed pawns are so dangerous. So dangerous. So
Yes,
b3, well, maybe it looked natural, Oh, it's so you have to be so wary of letting your opponent have a passed pawn, because even in an opposite colored bishop endgame, they're always going to have the static advantage.
exactly. And now Jordan is just going to town. If rook takes, then rook f2 check, skewering the king and queen. And now he's happy to exchange off queens because at the very least he'll gain another pawn.
Oh
And
no.
then I think Jacob might have forgotten that he couldn't really afford to exchange off queens because of the runaway pawn on c2 on the c file. So that was actually, I mean, it started off as a bit of a tussle, but once Jordan was able to get a stable advantage and paired with Jacob's time trouble, Jacob just couldn't hold on. So let's see what's going on and what happened in this game between Tom Babcock and David Bilczek. So this starts off as a Pierce that quickly turns into a Philidor, improved Hanham, and Thomas plays the most normal move, a system, which is Bishop c4, and then Queen e2, e4. Now, I remember somebody saying that in general, with the knight on d7, White shouldn't mind keeping his queen available to capture on d4 if ed4 happens. And maybe he also wants to play 8th year a4 so the bishop can come back here when it's harassed by this guy. But I don't play this regularly, so I can't vouch for the correctness of that. Anyway, Queen e2, ed 94, and here. Oh. Well, we're close to a Noah's Ark alert, but we're not there yet. A lot depends on, at least I don't think we're there yet.
I've never heard that phrase in chess. What do you mean by that?
The Noah's Ark trap. I think the most common place is from the Spanish opening, and I don't know if I can recreate it on spec. I think it's something like this. Basically, where white gets their bishop trapped behind a wall of pawns.
Okay, I was wondering if that was it, but I've never really heard of that.
Yes. Well, yeah, that bishop, the bishop on b5 gets harassed. Maybe it's something, I don't know. I'll just try and make something up, something like this. Oh, sorry. So here, and then bishop a4, and maybe here and here and here. Well, e5 and here, and then here, and something like this, 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 this.
Grandmaster draw. Or not. Oh, because now it's the rook's defended.
Yes, this is some version of it, and the legend is that this came from a game between Noah and Shem sometime in 3000 BC while they're on the Ark. It's that old of a trap. Yeah.
Wow.
I guess before they let it on Mount Ararat. Anyway, so that's why when c5 came, I was looking, oh, is that bishop going to get itself trapped? That's what I was trying to point out. So then that happens, and queen d7, attacking the pawn on f5, and on knight d5, which doesn't address the pawn, but does encourage an exchange on d5, which David doesn't go for, instead bringing his queen rook into the game, and also not wanting to bring white's bishop out of its mini purgatory. And once again, the pawn on f5 is not feeling safe. And it's not clear if, I think it's beyond saving now. Wow, that was pretty well done by David. So bishop d2, queen f5. And so he's won a pawn. Now, granted, it is two bishops versus two knights, so that on its own is a bit of compensation for the pawn loss. But white has to find play very quickly. And it just seems that the way the pawns are set up and everything, white's not going to succeed in that endeavor of keeping the bishop pair. And if he has to, or keeping the bishop pair where they're active. And if you can't do that, oh, nice tactics. So if bishop takes c4, as happened in the game.
Oh, then, he played bishop take. Uh-oh.
Yes. Let's see what happens if he plays bishop here, which would seem to be... Maybe there's no escaping. No, because if you take the time to play here, now he can play c3 and he gets an escape route.
So maybe b5 would be best for black.
So b5.
And I guess rook b8. I don't think knight d4 does as much as it looks to do.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
Like rook b8. Well, rook b8 is probably no good because a4, a6, and you might win the b pawn, but white will have a passed a pawn.
Yeah. So let's see what's happening here, because this seems like if you can get away with bishop there.
Ooh, what about knight c5?
Ah! Ding, 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 ding. You have won $1 million imaginary dollars. That solves it, because there's no escape for the bishop. Well, that's not true. You can do this.
Or bishop b5.
Or bishop b5. But there's still a threat here. So he could do this, and if he goes here, then he still has to deal with this. So
it's a lot of tactics, because you're right. There's always b4 or b3.
Yes. So if he plays here, then at the very least he has an awful position. Oh, but now he can go here, and it's not clear how he escapes. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
it's a nice trick.
Fiendishly evil. And maybe we're missing something, and Tom could have played bishop a4 and survived, but I guess he didn't feel it was necessary. That he probably felt he'd get enough play otherwise. Oh. All of a sudden, it's getting pretty exciting here. So the smoke is cleared, and...
Whoa, black's up a piece. What did I miss?
Yeah.
It was just that one tactic, huh?
Yeah. So after this, he captures. Black threatens to win an exchange. White counterattacks, attacking the rook. Black counterattacks against the bishop. And now there are 3 white pieces in danger. And so he plays rook e1. But then that allows knight takes c4. And was probably hoping that because the knight is pinned, he could get away with that and somehow confuse black's pieces. But f6 comes, and now all of a sudden black is a piece up, and his position is well consolidated. So yeah, it seems like things have not worked out well for Thomas here. Oh, and on top of that, he has to allow the exchange of bishop for knight, maybe. Okay, found rook h3. And now the knights have started dancing. So the knights is threatening the pawn on f4. And I think no self-respecting rook would allow their king to play something like g3. Um, so he plays bishop a5. Okay, I'll get my bishop back into the game, but that allows knight takes f4, and then rook g3, with a small threat of playing h3 to get back to the pin. So David moves away from the pin, and the bishop returns, but now David has a nice sequence. And it just so happens that the knight on f4, he doesn't have time to take it immediately anyway, because if he goes here, then this is a checkmate. Now, there is a question. Well, if that's the case, let's take away the knight that's causing part of our problems. But then David has the in-between move, knight e2, and then he captures on g4. So Thomas decides to try that. And now it's just consolidation of the city. And Thomas had seen enough. So yeah, that was a nicely played game by David.
Mm-hmm.
C4 was a star move.
A little bit of a comeback there.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. We have board one featuring Everyday Eddie and Nate. I remember once calling making a hip hop reference to Nate as Nate Dogg, which I think you recognized the source of that. Let's see what happens here. Oh, the Scotch. Or Scotch Gambit. Now it's transposed to something else, and I should know. Is this going towards Max Lange or something?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think this might be Max Lange. I lose track of the transpositions in these E4 games. Let me take a look at the database. So now this is the Scotch Gambit. Oh, so this is Scotch Gambit, Dubois Reti defense, and that's his advanced variation. And we have heavy hitters here, including Carlson on the black side a couple of times. And now with 94, we are now officially in the Italian game Scotch Gambit Max Lange attack. So and we're still very much in book.
Oh,
This is still theory, but
impressive.
yep, we have a So at this point, we're now winnowing down significantly. We're down to 3 games in the Masters database, including a game by Tigran Petrosyan as white, not the world champion, the modern Tigran,
Oh,
who's
there's two
also from
players with the
Romania.
same name.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought
the
that might have just been an old Tigran Petrosian, but maybe he's been long gone. I don't know.
yes, yes, yeah. Tigran, the world champion, his middle initial is V for Vartanovic. I'm not exactly sure what this Tigran's middle name stands for, but yeah, the the young Tigran Petrosyan is Tigran L, while the world champion, he passed away, I believe, in 83 or 84.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I think one of his last places to visit might have been Minnesota. The Minnesota old timers told me that he had appeared, I think, for the Renaissance Festival or something
Hmm.
back in the day. Um,
And you would be so good at chess trivia. Okay, we gotta organize an event.
um, well, I try. So now we're actually following um, a game between SP Saturban and Tigran Petrosian, which is crazy that we're this deep into the game and still following theory. And now this is the first new move. In the cited game, Bishop C5 had been played here. Um, and I suppose leaves black with fewer choices. But okay, Bishop D4, Queen C3, and now F6, which is a bit of a clever move. One of the ideas is that white can actually capture back on F6 with his queen because the bishop on D4 is pinned against the king. So, for example, and for some reason, the computer won't let me play bishop takes F6. So,
And
I think that's, yeah.
and another nice thing about I'm just still thinking on the last book move, but another reason why Bishop F5 is nice is because black can't play Queen E7 like he did in the game. So Bishop F5 does seem
Exactly.
slightly preferable.
Yes, yes. In this position, the bishop move completely keeps black under lock and key. The black's queen has no really great squares to go to. Maybe H4, but that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Um, so, so actually, that's an important point for Eddie to keep in mind the next time he reaches this position for why bishop c5 might be better than bishop d4. But okay, so we get here, and this would be a bit annoying, this queen b4. That is interesting. But I suppose, well, did he have to give up the pawn?
Well, he's not giving up the pawn because F6 will be hanging.
Ah, good point.
And this variation, C6 will be hanging. Or this variation, which I'm not sure. I haven't looked at this far ahead. I'm calculating on the fly.
This is crazy, though. So, huh, has Eddie overplayed his hand here?
Oh.
So, whenever anybody tells you that double pawns are always bad, I guess this is a counter argument. It helps that black had 2 c-pawns available to attack the knight on d4. Wow. This is an impressive bit of, if it was all calculated, this is an impressive bit of calculation by Eddie. Actually found a way to create a protected pass pawn at the potential cost of a pawn, but okay. It only took him a lot of time, but because Nate's probably doing a simul, he's not as far behind as he often would be, Eddie. So, well, let's see. Let's see what happens here. Just
But
out of curiosity, I wonder
I feel like
if this
yeah,
happens.
exactly. I feel like black can still take on a5.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. So if that occurs,
Bishop a6 is what I was looking at.
b6, and then bishop, and then rook here. This could get really difficult for black, actually.
Yeah, because the knight dominates the bishop. Yeah. So maybe this is still poisoned. That pawn's still poisoned. Yeah,
Yeah,
this does not look good.
this is well. We'll see. We'll see what Nate comes up with. All right, let's go to Jason versus Torfi. Catalan, no surprises there. Well, I should say technically this position's a Bogo, which can transpose to a Catalan. And now it's definitely in Bogo territory. That is, I think, a bit early. Um, yeah, I think D6 might be early. My understanding is the two most common moves here are 0, and H5.
Hmm. And if
Um,
e4,
and if E4, then you might consider playing here. But part of the reason, so the reason why people might play H5, of course, is to set up for this down the line and maybe avoid castling. And then um, one reason to play here is in case white tries to get this maneuver in early. I think this is the point where that decision can be made. Or maybe no, that's after D5. That's after E5 is played. So D6, I think, has something going for it as well. But okay, E5 is played, and this might be a more modern move order, actually, now that I think about it. This E5 without D6. Okay, that's a bit of mixing of systems there. So, is it uncommon for black to offer the A pawn? But it seems as if he might have considered, unless he was planning to play the H5 plan all along, which is where he wouldn't play 0-0. I think playing 0-0 has something to go for it, like back here, instead of A5 to play 0-0 or D6 immediately. Once you go here and then there, and another possibility is going through the D7 square to get to C5. is another possibility, avoiding the queen a4. But okay, it's not clear that that pawn is going to be the death of black, especially with him playing moves like this. Now, there is there's been a positional threat on the books for a while here, which is black advancing with e4 and then to e3 because white hasn't played e4 himself, and that breaks up white's kingside pawn structure. So that's one threat that's in this position. Jason plays his major thematic idea into position by playing c5, and Torfi responds with f6, keeping his position as solid as possible, but not declaring where he's castling. And now c6 is played, which strategically seems like a good idea, but the pawn on c6 might become a liability later, especially once black can castle and play knight c5, or bring the knight somewhere away from where it is currently.
Yeah, and now not only
And
does white up a pawn, but he's has a passed a pawn, and if he just pushes his a and b pawns, at some point he could have two connected passers. So I did like your
yes,
idea of just e4 for black earlier. With I'm not sure if it was possible, but it looked very intriguing.
yeah, at
Like
this
maybe,
moment, I think you can play it right now. I would play it right now. Just
yeah,
e4, e3.
because I don't know what white. How does white stop it?
I mean,
I
say he plays knight here and then e3, and yeah, this it seems as if white would be hard pressed.
there's 94, right?
There's 94, but then we can maybe even get away with this. That seems a bit reckless, but it's worth a try.
And then let's.
Although that seems maybe too reckless. Let's go with um,
Should we? Yeah, I mean, maybe even just take, and then after knight takes f2. Uh, yeah, there. Even just g5. Let's start to open things up on the king side.
oh yeah, there's that too.
'Cause this is getting scary for black. For white.
Yeah, this could be problematic. I suppose maybe there's queen. Well, maybe deal with this tension first.
Because once we get a free move, we're threatening to win h4.
True. If we capture here first,
We probably just take back right away. Queen g5.
queen g5, and then
Because yeah, I think what black's definitely back in the game here.
yes,
White doesn't really have anything apparent on the queen side.
yeah, this would be definitely troubling. I don't know if we should even consider maybe 94 here for white though. But then there's this, and that can't be great.
Yeah, we win the knight back. Then maybe we
Yeah,
should
but then
see
you
what
lose.
happens. Because
Then you lose this.
yeah,
So anyway, let's see how the game went, because after this, in a3, king f7, so he's connected his rooks, and now his knight is able to leave a6 and join the rest of the world civilization. So I don't know. This is not like a Benko. only superficially is there any connection. But yeah, those pawns. So he has a passed A pawn and it has a B pawn that can support the C6 pawn. But Black is trying to put pressure down the A and B files as compensation. Let's see how this all works. So B4 occurs, and then knight A4 attacking the queen, and then queen C2.
Hmm.
So knight A4 uncovered the attack on the A3 pawn. And so the question comes, well, how do you defend the A3 pawn if you defend it? And so Jason decided to defend with the rook, and then F6. Sorry, G6. So it isn't completely clear what Torfi's gotten for his pawn, but his position in terms of his strength in the center, his pieces all being gainfully employed, seems to be compensation enough, at least for now. And his bishop, I guess, is looking to play to F5 at some point. So, yeah, maybe he has more than enough. I mean, again, he has the extra pawn, White does, but he can't really put pressure on Black's position yet, doesn't seem.
I don't know about that move.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. Maybe his idea is to open up E5 for his knight, because doesn't feel the knight's doing enough.
Yeah, it's a tough position because, right, you are down a pawn, and even though you said he's hanging on, he has superior space in the center and the king side, you still want to, it's only natural to want to do something, but you might just need to stay steady, and think about what's my opponent trying to do, because Jason probably wants to play A4 and B5 or A4 and A5, push his pass pawns up, but so I was thinking maybe we play like knight A4 and blockade that, but then we do lose access to C4, so now white can also move their knight to maybe like B3. So it's really a cat and mouse game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not simple. E4. So let's see what his idea is. Oh, he wants to just get G5 in.
Oh, interesting. Yes, because I was thinking King G7 to stop Queen H7, but E5 just cuts the queen off altogether. Okay, so
Yeah,
maybe there is some merit.
there's some method to the madness, eh? Ah, so Corfy, Corfy is setting up some terroristic threats over there on the king side. And now I'm not envying Jason's situation at all. Defending this sort of position is not easy. I don't care how much time you have on the clock. Um, and yeah, now it's just difficult to see how he goes about defending this position. So he tries bishop h3, which then leaves the c4 square open. But first of all, oh yeah, this is bad.
Wow. Yeah, we kind of misread this. How powerful that kingside attack was, and really strengthened
Yeah,
by that move E5. It's the E5 was just to cut off the queen, and once the center is closed, white is helpless against the kingside attack.
yeah, it's just like the concentration of force on the king side is just too much. And now Torfi even has the opportunity to gain some style points with rook takes g3. And so there's one mate threat on the move, which is queen h3, and Jason stops that with queen f5, but then rook g8, and I don't think he can get a perpetual, and I also don't see how he protects the g2 square. So Jason goes for queen h5, try to get a perpetual, but then that's the only check he's got. That actually, if you don't mind, I want to go over that quickly because somehow Torfi snuck up on us as badly as he snuck up on Jason there. So here I was convecting about the pawn loss, and the pawn loss probably serves the purpose of distracting the queen long enough for Torfi to get his attack going. So I think this is the critical moment is here. Not here. Because it seemed at this point that Torfi was just trying to keep Jason's queenside at bay.
Which he probably didn't even need to.
Well, he probably did, because by so doing, he convinced Jason, I mean, he didn't need to, but it seemed to lull Jason into a false sense of safety and not pay attention to what Torfi was doing on the king side.
And queen a7 was stopping queen h7, excuse me, was the real key.
Yes. Yep. And at this moment, maybe he has to play h takes g. I don't know.
Maybe you also have to attack that knight with like bishop e2.
Yeah, that's another idea. But it seems that there's no way to prevent at least one line from getting opened on the king side there. And the rooks, Black's rooks can get over to the king side like that, while White's pieces have a very clumsy road trying to get back to help defend the king. Yet at this point, it's all over. Yeah, that was a very, very nice, very attractive game by Torfi. Let's see. I think Nate and Eddie are still battling it out. Let's see any other game we've missed. Well, there's a game between Drew Johnson and Nainika Tutica. Let's see what's going on there. Penko with e3. So this is an interesting system that Nainika is using, basically closing up the queen side, and now all the play will be in the center or king side, which isn't exactly what Black is looking for in these positions, but it's a different kind of fight, and so Black just needs to adapt to the current conditions. Here, I don't know if bishop f5 immediately was an idea. Instead of e5, just getting the rook to boot off, so to speak. So now the center is, at least for now, closed, and all the play is going to be on the king side, or at least preparing breaks. And at the moment, the obvious breaks for both sides would involve their respective f pawns. That's inconvenient. Okay. Very interesting. So, um, at the end of the opening, it's hard to say who is better per se, but I might give the nod to White a bit in that they have a greater potential to get their um, home break in than Black does. There's an argument here. I don't know how good the argument is because after coming here, I don't know where the knight's going to after that. But that has to be at least considered. Probably doesn't do anything. Hence, Drew played knight d7 instead. Queen c2. I was wondering if White's idea was to checkmate the queen. Although it's hard to see what he's playing for. And actually, after that, f5 is possible. So if queen takes, knight takes. Oh, f5, he has to hold off on because of this guy, maybe.
We'll probably still get away with it.
Yeah, you can get away with it because this guy's attacked. So then after here and here, yeah, and Black is actually a little bit better here, I think.
Yeah.
So queen g4 wouldn't be a good thing there. So queen c2 is played instead. Uh-oh.
I think you just forgot about that pawn.
Yeah.
Wonder why he didn't play f5 and he just brought the knight back.
I think they didn't feel the need to weaken their king side at all. They've won a pawn. They don't need to, and they probably felt they didn't need to complicate things unnecessarily. And also, knight g4 could be a thing in the future. Although it seems as if that might not have been what they had in mind, because they still go ahead and play f5. So, um, so it's hard to say if it was better to. It's hard to argue that it wasn't better to play f5 right away.
Yeah, because with this whole knight f6, knight h7, it looks like you want to go to knight g5, but you can just go knight g5 after f5.
In
So.
one move. Yes.
Yeah.
So
And
maybe Drew just wasn't sure of what he wanted to do. Because yeah, f5 immediately seems a bit more to the point. Because now he's gotten a position where his knight is worse placed on h7. Meanwhile, White has used those moves to get all their pieces into position somewhat. So f4 looks like it's on a menu. Or at least was. So let's see.
what Black has to be a little bit careful they don't delay too long. Obviously, they still have a
Yeah,
pawn. I slightly feel like Black missed an opportunity in the last couple moves.
I agree. I think that. Oh no, that's harsh.
But we can stop it. But that knight will be annoying.
Yes, and it's already showing some annoyance factor. B3's hanging, rook e2's hanging, and he can probably play for g5 and f4.
But yeah, we
Or
route the
knight.
other knight
Yes,
because White has to spend a move doing that, and now you get to just play. I mean, Black has very straightforward moves. Drew's playing a good
Yes.
game. I'll give him that, but Black does have very nice, obvious-looking moves.
Yep.
But that only comes about oof.
Uh-oh.
But that only does come about once you.
Oh, this is funny. So in this position, the timing, I guess, couldn't have been worse. Because it just so happens that with 97, that means 96 is very playable here. Because you can't capture thanks to the fork.
So Black had to play Rook F6 right away.
Yes. Um, so yes, Rook F6 would have been a better approach right here instead of King E7. But they're low on time at this point. Drew is down to 3 minutes compared to Nayaka's 27. So, okay, understandable. But the upshot of that is loses exchange. These knights are just galloping all over the place. Unfortunately, that's not enough because the knight just comes back. So he has two pieces. It has rook and pawn for two knights. The two knights are on pretty good squares, and he has to weaken a little bit in order to move the knight from e5. And so Drew is weakening White's king side pawn structure.
It's a risky move though, because now White's gonna perpetually pin Black on the F file.
Yes, I agree. This seems like maybe giving White a bit more play, but the upshot of it was he wanted to move the F pawn away, I think is part of his idea. So now his knight can live in peace on e5. And now both knights have squares that they can't be chased off from by pawns. And in fact, the knight on e5 might decide to um, set up camp on f4, depending on how things go.
This is going to be a very fascinating game.
Yeah, it's
Or finish, I should
gearing
say.
up for that.
It's been fascinating, but I'm curious to see how this will end.
Oh, there's. It would have been a nice tactic if Rook, if so. I was looking at. I don't know if you play. Well, there is no random move to play. Okay, if you had played here, this of course is just losing. But I was thinking, okay, if this is, yeah, there's no random move for white to play to allow it to happen. But knight f5, knight f5, you always have to think that. Remember that g takes f5 is a double check. Fortunately for I think that's not an issue. Are we going to a draw by repetition?
I mean, it would make some sense. The position looks fairly drawish.
And Drew's down to 10 seconds, it looks like. Oops.
Yeah, they're repeating.
They accept a draw already and somebody didn't stop the clock, maybe?
No, but this looks, let me see, once, twice. Okay, so they haven't made the threefold, but if Drew goes knight f7 and Nanika goes rook g3, then it will be threefold and one of the players could claim.
So I don't know whether they claimed it and just didn't stop the clock.
Well, it doesn't look like it happened. The threefold happened on the board yet. Unless I'm miscounting.
So I think you're supposed. So when you get to this position. So one,
Actually, yeah, just knight f7 would be 3-4.
2.
White doesn't have to play rook g3.
Yeah, so this is where you'd stop the clock, call the arbiter, and declare a draw. So
I think
you
after
don't
knight
play the
f7,
move on the board. Yeah, you don't play the move on the board. You indicate that that's the move you're going to play.
yeah, yes, that is proper etiquette. Yeah.
Yeah. So that might have been what happened there.
We chess players have odd styles.
Yes. So let's see. So we have one more game going, and it is a typical fascinating fight involving Eddie Wasserman, uh, who has been rocking the increment for some moves now. Let's go back. Where did we left off? We were wondering if the H pawn, sorry, the A pawn was going to be in danger. Okay, so we were here and there. Okay, so this was his move, was bishop a6. So he didn't capture the pawn on he didn't go ahead and capture the pawn on a5, which changes this whole position. Because now it's hard to see how the knight gets out of there alive after. Okay, he has f7 to go to. So, but Nate is able to get this move in, and now this, and the armada starts to move. And yeah, so it's still not clear what's going on here.
Blacks, I prefer black, as you probably would
Yo,
too.
yes, for sure. Black, especially after king of 7, I think black is definitely in the driver's seat here. And now c4 is going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Black's pawn seemed to have more of a future than white's a pawn.
Yeah, and then now that the knight is going to suffer a broken rein. Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but that night, that no one deserved it more. That night was playing fast and loose for like half the game.
Yes. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. So so I think Nathan should capture an f7, and if no, he should have captured an h7, allowed rook takes h7, and then played c4. I guess get his pawns moving, I think. And c4, by the way, would also be attacking so like something like this. Take that criminal off the board, and here, and then maybe here to try and motor his pawns down, and incidentally also attack that guy. Because at this point, time is of the essence in these double rook and pawn endings. But okay, we'll hang here since I think this is the last broadcast game still going.
Yeah, I checked the other bottom boards, but none of the moves have been updated.
Okay. Yeah, so let's see what's going on. So I suppose Nate decided to eat his cake and have it too, which also makes sense. With this h6, because there's no way to defend the f7 pawn anyway. So now he has all the advantages that he had before. Well, maybe he doesn't have the time advantage. He would have had the other line. But maybe that time advantage, not in terms of moves, not on the clock. Maybe that advantage in time was overrated. Here, actually, a plan for black might be rook a6. Rook a6, then rook d7, then rook a7, trying to tie white down to the a pawn, and then once they're sufficiently tied down, then move the queenside pawns.
Yeah, I like that.
So we'll see what Nate comes up. So let me see. So I suspected that Nate was playing. Yeah, he's playing against John Baker, which is probably why we don't have any games from the Nathan versus John Baker game.
But what if you were a betting man? What's the odds of Nathan winning this game?
I would give it at least 60-40 and probably 70-30. I think it depends on how involved his game against John is. But he definitely has definite edge here. And it's not clear, really, if Eddie takes the position of defending his A pawn, which seems like that's what he's doing. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the problem is I'm trying to
See, the
calculate.
thing
Maybe
here is,
it would be nice if we could get our king to d5 in time, but maybe we don't. This
yeah,
might
that's
be
the thing is I don't know
trickier
if we
than I
get
thought.
there in time. Yeah, I don't know if we get there in time. Let's move some. Okay, so there. So King D3 is probably coming next.
Wait, he does get there in time. How did I
He does
miss?
get
Wait,
there in time, yes.
I don't know
And
what
if
I
and
was.
if the king goes to D3, when he plays here, oh, this happened in the game. I guess they're both playing the right moves. Now C4 comes where he doesn't lose the B pawn.
Yeah, now I think it's over. Yeah. If White had an extra tempo there and they could have got their king to c4, then
Yeah.
I think it would have been a long haul for sure. Because even though Black's up a pawn, the configuration of their pawns is locked on both the queen side and the king side.
Oh, and don't look now, but there's actually depending on what Edwy plays. Yeah, I was gonna say Rook E7 has the white king in a mating net. He has to cough up material or move his king back.
Well, we always can go to d2.
Oh, there's D2. Yes. There is D2. So now he's maybe only threatening to take the H pawn.
which will be enough.
Yes. Which can he even just go there now? Or should he improve his king with King C4 first?
It's a little tricky because king of c4, and then it's tough to move our pawns, and obviously c4 blunders b4, and if we move both our rooks in for Black, then the a pawn obviously just pushes. So Nate still has to be a bit careful, but maybe something like rook e3 and then bring in the
Yes.
king to e4.
Yeah, there's that as well.
And then maybe d3, because as Black we just want to exchange pawns because we have a 3-on-1. Let's not forget it. So
Yes. So yeah, so here if we do something like where's okay, let's get to the live game. So we're here. Yeah, so rook e3, threatening this guy. I suppose he could defend it now.
duh, or we're just missing king c4 and king b5, and you can't hang on to both a pawn and
Yes.
h pawn. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is where we are currently. Nathan decided to take the king c4 route. And yeah, so the a5 pawn is doomed currently. Whether Black wants to take the time to capture that as well, or just pretend like he's going to capture it to keep the rooks honest while his other rook does work, isn't clear. Let's see. And he could just decide to continue increasing the pressure by king b5 and c4, and it's um, a less than optimal situation for Eddie with time trouble like this.
And taking a peek at the standings, it looks like
Mhm.
for the premier section, Simon Popkin was actually the only player on a perfect score, but he took a half-point
Oh,
bye for this round, and then he's also not playing round 4, so a bit
uh-oh.
unfortunate, but he will not be getting first. But still, the 2 games he did play, he did well. Jordan is now at 2.5, so he will be at least tied for first, and actually more so because Eddie's going to lose, and Eddie's at 1.5. And
Mm,
Jacob lost, right? Jacob's at
yes.
1.5. So yeah, Jordan will be in sole first. Nathan will be at 2, and they haven't played yet, so we're gonna get probably a classic Nathan versus Jordan
Oh,
matchup
okay.
for round 4 next week.
That'll be interesting for sure.
And then the open section, and I guess I should mention the premier section has 14 players this month, and the open has 23. So good turnout for the open. So
Yeah.
seems 23 players. That's a lot. Nate's winning the open with 2 points, along with Kevin Landman, John Baker, and Evan Patchen. So yeah, it's a shame we couldn't get that Nate and John game because the leaders are matched up against each other. But I'm sure Nathan does a good job of uploading them eventually. I think so. It'll probably still
Yeah.
be available for the spectators to view at some point. Um, and then Kevin Landman did beat Evan, so Kevin's at a perfect 3 out of 3. So
Oh,
I'm not going to assume, but we might get Nathan versus Kevin for round 4, but John could pull up the upset. We'll see.
yeah. It's yeah. Nothing is certain in these games. Uh, well, besides the fact that Robert will have an interesting game and will spend very little of his time. Those are things that are certain. Now, he's just given up the A pawn. And it's I think I would take it, although it does mean that you're giving the remaining rook the A file. So you want to figure, is it worth it going for it right now? There's an argument for just playing c4 and giving white 0 play.
Yeah, everything wins here for black. So I wonder where. So I think probably Eddie just got a bit too ambitious with. I mean, I hate to say it, but this bishop f5 way back in the opening. It's don't let black play f5,
Yes.
and not only that, but you also stop them from queen e7. So just
Yeah,
knowing
bishop
that,
c5 here. Yeah.
yeah, sorry, bishop c5. Just knowing
Yes.
that one bit of, I don't even want to call it theory, but just from that one master game, knowing the proper move would have really helped Eddie here.
Yes. And this is I think this illustrates one of the reasons why it's good to see the games played by these strong players, and then try your best, you're not going to succeed most of the times. At least I don't succeed many of the times to understand the reasons for all the moves. And then at that point, you ask somebody who knows better, or you turn on your engine, and maybe it's something that's explained by tactics. But in this case, it was easy as a Monday morning quarterback to see, okay, yeah, that one deficiency of bishop d4 was it allowed the queen to get to e7. And once the queen got to e7, then black was able to get back into the game. Because in this position, I think it's just kind of miserable for black.
Yeah.
Um,
And it brings up the interesting point of when black, or it doesn't matter what color, but when a side has doubled pawns, it's always advisable to place a piece in front of the doubled pawns because obviously no pawn on either side can, at least in this case, can shoo away that piece. So just it's another added benefit of blockading the square.
yes. Yeah. But then, okay, things became interesting here. And I think this was also a moment where in the pursuit of a tactical solution, he might have made his life very difficult. Because that knight couldn't in good conscience make its way back home without allowing these sort of tactics. And so even though materially at this point they're equal, his minor piece, Nathan's minor piece, might be a bit more versatile. Actually, in this position, I don't know why it didn't occur to me before. In this position, after rook d8, should he have considered this, or does that not make a difference?
Oh,
I suppose there's bishop here.
there's
It
bishop
does make
there.
a difference.
But what about rook f5? It should at least be looked at. So knight e4, bishop e7, and rook f5. And then g5 is probably annoying.
Well,
Wait, no,
g5 isn't good because of
g5.
this.
Well, not right away, but yes, takes and then g5. Yeah, so maybe knight e4 is preferable because you got to stop those pawns, and as we saw, the knight on f7 just gets stuck, unsurprisingly.
Yes.
And I think here it's already lost. I think that was the white's last chance to have some hope was knight e4.
Now here, is there an argument for h4, h5? Sorry, h4, g5. So instead of this move, which I suppose was based on trying to prevent c4, does he have time for this or this right away?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because play where you have your majority. So I like it. Yeah.
Because rook b3 seemed in a way to be a wasted move. The rook is not good on that square. Yes, it delays c4 for a move, but it also means that now that I think about it, if we did go for g5 and if this was black's plan here, let's see how that works out. Mm. That's to be
No.
all kinds of bad. Pawn takes pawn first. But then king here, and now this guy is in trouble. So yes, maybe g5 isn't working at that moment. Yeah, once the knight was properly lassoed, I think it was game over in this endgame. Huh?
No, Eddie's not a troll player. He doesn't blunder mates and twos.
No, no. This is probably DGT error.
Yeah, you can't. Rook e3 also blunders a rook, and the only way to not lose material here is, I think, to play rook hb1. But then you're just trading off more material. So
Yeah,
I think we're good to leave this game. I have
yeah.
very high faith in Nathan's
Ability.
capabilities in converting a 2 pawn up endgame.
Yes.
So
All right.
I guess I'll go over to the um, final announcements for the stream, man. Considering all the games have been covered, make sure to check out the Discord. I know this week we were kind of discussing the candidates, which is upcoming, and I personally am very looking forward to. We have a couple American players playing, so if you want to join in the discussion or you want to just share your thoughts really about anything chess related, make sure to check out the Discord. Also, obviously, as always, the stream is sponsored by Chess Goals. You can look at the simple chess courses, basically opening repertoires, which is headed by Matt Jensen. And then the other sponsorship is Webeccentric, and you can use the discount code Castle for 15% off. And then you can read down below how Webeccentric helps different size businesses, and how also you can shop at the merch store with shop.webeccentric.com web address. So make sure to check that out. Get your merch, especially if you like the Scandinavian. And yeah, and oh, lastly, I'll mention once again, this next weekend is the biggest tournament of the year. Not for the castle, but for Minnesota Chess, which we're all a part of. So make sure to tune into the stream and watch high level chess, whether it's Sammy or the expert section. I think we'll just be covering the top 2 sections, if I
I
heard
think
correctly from
so.
Dane. Because right, it's too many boards if you have to cover the third section. So, but yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
watching,
actually, let
everyone.
me think.
Yeah,
It
go ahead.
might. Anyway, we'll deal with the technicalities of that. But I would think that it's being that it's 3 sections, 6 players in each section. Well, it's 4 sections, right? Or is it, yeah, it is 4 sections.
4, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how you're going to have DGT boards too, but if they did for, um, it might be possible. I don't know whether it's desirable because then it might go too long. But anyway, well, um, Dane has it under control. He'll let us know what's going on.
Yeah, and they'll probably go into great detail on some of the games, considering the stakes are so high.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll hopefully see you. Well, definitely next Thursday, and then the following weekend.